What is going on, guys? Rogue TCG here, bringing the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG deck profile you on the Discord asked me for, so here I am bringing it to you. Here is Crystron. Now, this deck is actually pretty damn neat. It has a card that you can see right here on screen, Crystron Halber. That is banned, and that might tell you a little something about the archetype and how good it is. Now, I'm just kind of kidding with you. Halber is like the weird card of the archetype where it actually doesn't really support the archetype all too well compared to how it supports other archetypes. But regardless, here I am bringing to you, here is Crystron. Now this is a synchro archetype that relies on you destroying your own monsters and bring cards back from the graveyard and bring tuners out of deck. Now please stop me if you've heard that somewhere before. And you can see in the list that we have combined it with Manium, which is a deck where you ideally want to be having tuners on your side of the board and you want to be destroying your own cards, and then if you do a certain amount of things, such as destroying your own cards, you're able to summon more tuners out of your deck. So very, very similar game plan to Crystron's, just a handful of years after Crystron's initially released, but Crystron did get a new wave of support, so that is the reason why I'm covering the deck. So without further ado, let's get into the deck profile. Starting off the list, we're on triple of a new card, Crystron Sulfudhole. It is a level 5 machine water. These monsters are going to be water machines. If this card's in our hand or graveyard, we can target a Crystron card we control, destroy it, and if we do, special summon this card, and we're locked from the extra deck except for machine monsters. If this card is normal or special summon, we can send up to 2 Crystron cards with different names from our deck to the graveyard except for itself, and we can only use each effect once per turn. This is going to be our main starter. It's fantastic the way we can send 2 Crystrons from our deck to the graveyard, and it can allow us to basically almost accomplish whatever we want. Now, keep in mind, whatever we want is typically going to be 1 to 2 good synchros, but that ain't all too bad off of one card, let's be so for real. But we're going to start off with our non-tuners, so we're on triple of Sulfudhole, the new one. We're also on 2 copies of Crystron Rosnix of Mermail fame. This card reads, we can target one face-up card we control. We cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except for machine-type synchro monsters. Also destroy that card, and if you do, special summon a Crystron tuner from our deck. Now, all of these non-tuner monsters, except for this first one, are going to have that effect, so I'm not going to mention that on every single one. But all of them are going to have this effect. And this card also has the effect where we can banish this card from our graveyard to special summon 1 Crystron token, machine type water, level 1, attack 0, defense 0, but it cannot be tributed, and we can only use 1 Rosnix effect per turn, and only once that turn. So we have to choose if we want the graveyard effect or if we want the on-field effect, which again, all of the Crystron non-tuners do have on as a stipulation for them, of course. So that is one of the reasons why we are playing pretty much as many of them as we can, because we have to pick and choose which of the effects we're going to want to use for each of them. So we're on 2 Rosnix. We're on 2 of this because this one makes a token and it's a level 4, which is quite relevant. But next we are on 1 copy of Crystron Thirstfern. It is a level 3 machine water, of course. You can target 1 face-up card we control. It has the Crystron non-tuner effect. And then its graveyard effect is we can banish this card from our graveyard to add 1 Crystron monster from our deck to our hand except for itself. And again, we can only use 1 of the effects per turn and only once that turn. Again, a fantastic card. This is one of the main cards we're going to be sending with Sulfudhole. So we're going to be able to use this basically as a graveyard reinforcement of the army to add another Crystron from deck to hand. For our level 2, we're on, let's cover our other level 3 right now. We're on 1 copy of Chron Smiger, a level 3 monster. It is a water machine. It has that Crystron non-tuner effect as the first effect, and we can banish it from the graveyard to add a Crystron spell or trap from our deck to our hand. We're only playing 1 copy of all of these cards, even though all their graveyard effects seem fantastic, because we're able to dump them quite easily with, again, our copy of Sulfudhole. So we are on 1 copy of Crystron Smiger. We're on 1 copy of Crystron Presortol. This card reads, it has the Crystron non-tuner effect, of course, and we can banish it from our graveyard to special summon a Crystron from our hand. That effect is significantly worse than any of the other ones that we've covered so far. However, the main reason we are playing it is as a Crystron level 2 non-tuner, which is quite relevant for a lot of our combos, so we do need to be playing this one. And then for our last non-tuner Crystron, we're on 1 copy of Crystron Sulfefnir. This is a level 5 machine water. If this card's in our hand or our graveyard, we can discard a Crystron card except for itself to special summon this card in defense position, then destroy one card we control. If this card on field is destroyed by battle or card effect, we can special summon one Crystron monster from our deck in defense position. Now that isn't just tuners, that can special summon any Crystron from our deck, so it is quite a fantastic card. Since it can't discard itself, there's no point in running more than one copy, so we're only going to be running one copy, and again, this is why we're going to be sending this to the graveyard with our Sulfed Hole. So ideally, we're going to be sending our Thirstfern and our Sulfefnir. We're going to be able to add a card off Thirstfern and then pitch that card that we added for Sulfefnir in order to summon, and then pop itself, then special something from out of deck, and then continue popping off. New card, PogChamp new card. We're on triple copies of Crystron Baby Hal. This is a level 2 machine tuner. When your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, we can special summon one Crystron monster from our deck except for itself. Then immediately after this effect resolves, synchro summon a machine monster using that monster you control. You can banish this card from your graveyard to destroy one synchro monster you control, and if you do, special summon 2 Crystrons from your deck, and you're locked from the extra for the rest of the turn, except for machine monsters. And we can use each effect of this card once per turn. Now, Baby Hulk is crazy. This is, again, one of the main things that we're going to be wanting to special summon off of a card like Sulfefnir, especially if we already have a card like Sulfed Hole on board, so we're able to use both those cards to make a synchro, and then once we use the synchros on summon effect, we're able to use this card's effect in order to pop our own synchro to put 2 more materials on board in order to make another one, which is really quite cool, especially given that all of our synchros float when they're destroyed by card effects. For our other tuners, we're on one copy of the level 3 Chron Ryion. During our opponent's main phase or battle phase, we can target one of our banished non-tuner monsters, special summon it, but it has its effects negated if any, and if you do, immediately after this effect resolves, synchro summon one machine type synchro monster using only that monster and this card as synchro materials, and they're shuffled in the deck instead of being sent to the graveyard. A really great card. We're mostly playing this though because we do need a level 3 Crystron tuner. And that's the same reason why we're playing one copy of Crystron Quan. We need the level 1 Crystron tuner. And this card reads, during your opponent's main or battle phase, we can special summon one non-tuner monster from our hand, except it has its effects negated if any, and if we do, immediately synchro summon one machine type synchro monster using only that monster and this card, and that is a quick effect. You know, it's not the best in the world. All these tuners are kind of like baby formula synchrons, except they have their own different like claws to them. Of course, they're all better than Formula Synchron because they'll all put a body on board somehow, but Quan is the weakest because it does have to take resources out of the hand, while Baby Hulk is by far the best one because we are able to get materials out of deck. While our Ryion is kind of somewhere in the middle because we're always going to be banishing cards, so we're always going to have cards accessible to be grabbed from the banish, but this card, again, we do need to have some setup in order to use it. But that's it for our Crystron monsters. Now let's go on to our spells and traps. Starting off with 3 of the new Chron Inclusion. When this card is activated, we can add a Crystron card from our deck to our hand except for itself. First time each of your Crystron monsters will be destroyed by battle each turn. It is not. We can banish this card from our graveyard, target a Crystron in our graveyard, and special summon it. And we can use that last effect of Crystron Inclusion once per turn. And we can only activate Crystron Inclusion once per turn. Now, this card is quite good. This is our 1-card combo in order to basically use this in order to grab our Sulfed Hole to pop our Inclusion, and then pop off from there. So we are maxing out on this card. And then lastly, for our Crystron cards, we're on 1 copy of Chron Cluster. This is a new continuous trap. Crystron cards you control cannot be banished by your opponent's card effects, so no SP, no Mirror Jade, no whatever. And it does consider itself because it is a Crystron card. So if your opponent only has banishing removal, let's say you're against a Malice opponent, they're going to find this card quite troublesome in order to deal with it. It also has the effect where you can target 1 face-up card on the field, or up to 2 if you control a Crystron Synchro monster. Shuffle 1 Crystron card from your graveyard or banishment into the deck, except for Cluster, and if you do, destroy the targeted cards, and we can only use that effect of Crystron Cluster once per turn. It's like whack Icarus attack, except we don't actually have to use materials from our hand, although it's quite telegraphed because our opponent gets to see us search this card and then set it, and then they get to see our banishment and graveyard to see if we can actually do it. But that's it for our Crystrons in our main deck. Now let's cover the other engine I'm opting to include. Of course, you don't have to include this engine. You can play non-engine if you'd like. However, I'd like another Synchro archetype in order to assist the Crystrons in making, of course, the Synchros. And to that end, I have employed the Maniums. We're on triple copies of Peaceful Planet Calarium, triple copies of Manium Ruimheart, triple copies of Manium Meek, 2 copies of Manium Torrid, 1 copy of Manium Obsidian, and 1 copy of Manium Imagining. This for our search targets, of course, for our Ruimheart. We're also on 1 copy of Vsauce Starfrost, and then we're on other cards after that. But first, let me go into the Manium engine just a little bit more. The main reason I'm including this engine is because this does give us a good normal summon, being Manium Ruin Heart, because typically in Crystron we actually don't really need to normal summon, because this will special summon itself, and this is our main starter, so we are a deck that doesn't exactly need a normal summon, so this is a quite good card to put in that position. Vsauce Starfrost is also a card that can allow us to get our Crystrons into our graveyard, especially once we get to our synchros. You'll see why it's quite valuable in that aspect. Although we are only playing one because it is searchable with our field spell. We're also on the Maniums because our Crystrons, except for Soulflood Hole, will say target one face-up card we control, and then we're locked out of the extra except for machines, and then we destroy it. So that allows us to target our Maniums in order to get extra advantage off of that, because typically the Crystrons, the only one that will give us advantage when we pop it is Solfefnir, while all the other ones will just have graveyard effects. The Maniums are going to both replace themselves and allow us to modulate the levels in the case of Meek, or choose which one we want in the case of Torrid, in order to best suit what we are looking for. We're also on one copy of Jet Synchron, one copy of 1-for-1 to be able to grab either Crystron Quan or Jet Synchron from our main deck to, be able to grab a tuner if we need to. It also allows us to send Crystrons from our hand to the graveyard in order to use the graveyard effect of them if we need a discard outlet. And then we're on one copy of Call by the Grave for hand trap mitigation, 3 copies of Ash Blossom Joyous Spring, and 2 copies of Infinite Impermanence to round out this 40 card list. I don't mean to interrupt the video, but I do just want to give you all guys a heads up. We are quickly rising in our subscriber number, and I did want to make you all aware that once we hit 2,000 subscribers, I am going to be doing another giveaway. Now, I remember I did one once we hit 500 subscribers, and we did a special thing for 1,000, so I want to do something special for 2,000. And you see this beautiful mat right here? Well, it can be yours. I have 2 extra mats. There's one of them, and let me get that second one for y'all. I have 2 extra pristine mats for you all. So I got multiple of these, and to 2 lucky winners, I'm going to be giving one to one person and one to another. And the person who wins the overall giveaway is also going to get a full Orcust deck. I can't guarantee it's going to be max rarity, but I'm going to see what I can do, and I'm going to try and make it look nice and pretty for you. It's not going to be the full deck, it's just going to be the core Orcust cards, but I want to be able to give you one of you all the ability to play one of my favorite decks. So just something I'm doing for you. You can always pop into our Discord. I believe that's where I'm going to be doing the giveaway. The Discord's always going to be in the description of my videos. I'm going to have a little bit more details once we start rolling up on that, but I just wanted to make you all aware of that. Now, back to the video. In our extra deck, we're on Crystron's 2 Crystron Quandanks, and we're going to cover them once I go over the amounts that we're playing. 2 Quandanks, 2 Amatrix, 2 copies of the new one, Lis Galatas, 2 copies of Chron Penis, and 1 copy of Crystron Quarion Gandrax. Quarion Gandrax. Nailed it. But these are all the Crystrons we're playing, and all these are going to have floating effects when they're destroyed by card effect. Starting off with Crystron Quandanks, it is a level 4 Machine Synchro Tuner. Keep in mind this is a tuner. Once per chain during your opponent's main or battle phase, you can quick effect immediately after its effect resolves. Synchro summon 1 Synchro monster using materials, including this card you control as material. If this Synchro summon card is destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can target 1 Crystron monster in your graveyard, except for a Synchro, and special summon it. Now you can see every time of our Crystron Synchros are destroyed, we're going to get at least some sort of advantage, and our small ones are going to bring back non-tuner Crystrons, including our Chron Amatrix, which on Synchro Summon will flip everything special summoned on the field that your opponent controls to defense position. And if it's destroyed by battle or card effect, we can target a Crystron in our graveyard, except for a Synchro, and special summon it. The exact same as Quandanks. This is a card that we want to maybe go into on our opponent's turn in order to flip everything sideways. However, we're only playing this 2 because it's very easily accessible with the Crystron package, and it's a way to translate a Crystron into a different Crystron from the graveyard. Then we're on 2 of the new card, Crystron Lis Galatas. This card is a level 7, it needs a tuner and a non-tuner. Monsters your opponent controls lose 500/500. You can only use each of the following effects of this card once per turn. If it's Synchro Summon, we can add a Crystron from your graveyard or banishment to our hand. If this Synchro Summon card is destroyed by a battle or card effect, we can special summon a Crystron monster from our graveyard or banishment. That does count itself. We can special summon itself off that effect, but most of the time we're going to be special summoning another Crystron in order to get the right numbers on our side of the board to continue synchro playing. But this card is quite strong, being able to refill our hands from our, basically our second hand being our graveyard and our banishment, by putting cards from that right back into our real hand. And when it's popped, being able to grab back anything, including itself, from either the graveyard or the banishment is just straight up amazing. So we are playing in 2 copies of this card. We're also on 2 copies of Chron Penis. This card needs 1 tuner synchro monster and 1 or more non-tuner synchro monsters. So we do have to make this card with synchros. It is a 9, so we do have to be making this ideally with Quandanks and Amatrix. And this card reads, if this card is synchro summoned, we can banish all spells and traps your opponent controls and in their graveyard. If this is synchro summoned card is destroyed by battle or card effect, we can target one other monster in our graveyard and special summon it. RIP Sky Striker players, this card is amazing. Being able to banish all back row cards that our opponent controls and in their graveyard is going to cut off very specific decks from basically all follow-up. Think Eldritch, Labyrinth, so on and so forth, where basically be able to stifle whatever they're trying to do, which is amazing. And then lastly, for the boss monster of the archetype, we're on 1 copy of Crystron Gandrax. This card is a level 11, I believe, or I need to count. I'm bad at counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It is not an 11, it is a 9. But this card reads, it needs 2 or more tuners and 1 non-tuner monster, so very similar to Trishula, except kind of the opposite way. If this card is synchro summoned, we can target monsters our opponent controls or in their graveyard up to the number of synchro materials used for the synchro summon of this card. Banish them. If this synchro summoned card is destroyed by battle or card effect, we can target 1 banished monster except for this card, special summon it to our side of the field. Now, surprisingly, this one doesn't actually have that great of a floating effect compared to Penis and to our Lis Galatas. These cards allow us to basically grab whatever we want from our graveyard, and then Lis Galatas also allows us to grab from banishment, while Chron Gandrax was only from our banishment. However, this effect that's on the card is quite good, and if we are making this on our opponent's turn, it can somewhat come out of nowhere if our opponent doesn't really know what we're up to. But since a lot of our cards in our extra deck do lock us into machine-type monsters, and except for Soul Foothold will lock us into machine-type synchros, we're pretty much only playing synchros and only playing machine synchros. So now once we get to our other non-Crystron synchros, we're on 1 copy of Armory Arm. Now, I'm going to be so for real. I do not like this card on the list. I do not. It does allow us to OTK, especially when paired with cards like Morphtronic Earphone. However, I don't like Earphone in the deck either. And the reason we are playing these cards in the list is because if you can see what I'm doing right over here on this other screen, I'm opening up the search tab. We need to look at our machine synchro level 4 monsters. What we're looking for are non-tuner monsters that we're able to make with level 4s. We have our Crystron Quandanks, High Speed Roid Puzzle, Armory Arm, and Morphtronic Earphone. There's only 1 that's a tuner, except there's only 4 total level 4 machine synchros, and we chose the 2 better ones. We're not playing any Speedroids, so Puzzle ain't exactly the most useful. And at least Earphone has a graveyard equip effect to give a monster 2 attacks on monsters, so at least that might potentially come up. But the reason I'm going to such lengths in order to guarantee that I have these 4s is because I designed this deck to do something quite silly. And the silly thing that I designed this deck to be able to do is off 1 card being Chron Inclusion, we are able to make TG Halber Cannon or TG Glaive Buster. Now, these 2 are the boss monsters of the TG archetype, and in archetype, it is a little bit pain in the ass to get to them in TGs. However, with just 1 card with this new Crystron support, we're able to make either one or the other one with the utmost certainty. TG Halber Cannon is a level 12 and needs 1 tuner synchro monster, 2 or more non-tuner synchro monsters, must be synchro summoned and cannot be special summoned by other ways. Once per turn during either player's turn when a monster would be summoned, you can negate the summon, and if you do, destroy that monster. This card must be face up on the field to activate and resolve this effect. When this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target 1 TG monster in our graveyard and special summon that target. Now that is a when you can, so, you know, missing timing and stuff, but it is just a solemn warning on legs, so it is, you know, somewhat alright. We're also on the Glaive Buster, and this card is a new TG support card. This card is, again, a level 12, same requirements as our Halber Cannon. And this card reads, must be synchro summoned. Quick effect, you can target one monster on the field, special summon from the extra deck, banish it. You can use this effect a number of times, up to the number of non-tuner synchro monsters used as synchro material for this card. Once per turn, if a monster is banished face up, except during the damage step, you can target one of them and special summon it to your field, ignoring the summoning conditions. Now, when we make this in this deck, it's going to be 2 targeted banishing on our opponent's turn, and as well as we get to steal one of their monsters, ignoring the summoning condition, which is quite strong, and ideally we're going to be ending on Glaive Buster instead of our Halber Cannon, unless we know that Halber Cannon can basically completely shut off what our opponent is trying to do. Other cards that we're playing this deck is one copy of XL Synchron in order to pair with the Jet Synchron to make easier level modulations, as well as getting a card that can allow us to have a discard outlet into the graveyard. And then Dawn Dragster, of course, is just a spell negate, or a spell trap negate, where we're able to just reduce its level and negate a card, and it is a machine synchro, so we are able to make it in archetype. But that's going to be about it for the deck profile. Thank you all so much for watching. I am going to be showing you that 1 card combo, so stay tuned. But again, that's going to be all for the video after that. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you all later. Bye-bye. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you wanted to talk to more Yu-Gi-Oh players like yourself, I would highly recommend checking out our Discord server. Link is going to be in the description, as well as the QR code on screen. We do talk somewhat frequently about Yu-Gi-Oh and the current meta, so I would really enjoy to see you there. As well as we do recently now have channel memberships available on our YouTube channel, where we have 3 different tiers. We have Super Supporter at $2 a month, where you get loyalty badges, emojis, guaranteed comment responses, a shout out at the end of every video, as well as access to the members only Discord channel, where you get early sneak peeks at future videos. There is the Giga Supporter at $5 a month, where you have early access to all new videos about a day or 2 before they go up, as well as all the previous offers. And for $15 a month, we do have our final tier, which is going to be Femboy Fanatic. You get a guaranteed customized video every single month, as well as 1 hour of my time. Could be for anything you'd like. You want a duel? Absolutely. You want me to help build a deck? Absolutely. You want to play some Helldivers? Sure. I'll do anything for an hour once a month. But supporting does help me out quite a lot, and it does help me produce all of these videos. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be seeing y'all later. Bye-bye.